It remains one of the greatest mysteries in American crime. A man boards a plane on a chilly November afternoon, dressed like a typical businessman. He orders a drink, slips a note to a flight attendant, and calmly informs her that he has a bomb. Hours later, he parachutes into the night sky with $200,000 in ransom money and disappears forever. That man, remembered in history as D.B. Cooper, has never been found. Neither alive nor dead, he remains a ghost in FBI records, a legend in popular culture, and a puzzle that journalists, detectives, and amateur sleuths still chase more than half a century later. On November 24, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving, Portland Airport in Oregon was crowded with holiday travelers. Among them was a man calling himself Dan Cooper, who purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle. He appeared to be in his mid-40s, about 6 feet tall, wearing a dark suit, a white shirt, a black tie, and polished shoes. He carried only a briefcase. To the airline staff and the other passengers, he looked like a quiet, respectable businessman, as someone who blended in without drawing attention. After boarding Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, a Boeing 727 bound for Seattle, he sat near the rear of the plane and ordered a bourbon and soda. The aircraft carried 36 passengers and 6 crew members. Nothing seemed unusual until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Cooper slipped a folded note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. At first, she assumed it was just another man trying to flirt with her, perhaps leaving his phone number, and she slipped it into her pocket without looking. But Cooper leaned toward her and said quietly, "Miss, you'd better read that note. I have a bomb." Shocked, she opened it to find a message that was both precise and terrifying. Cooper calmly explained that he had explosives in his briefcase and instructed her to sit beside him. When she complied, he opened the case just enough to reveal what appeared to be red sticks attached to wires and a battery. To this day, no one knows whether it was truly dynamite or just a convincing fake, but the sight was enough to silence any doubts. Cooper dictated his demands with chilling composure. He wanted $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, a 2 main and 2 reserve, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle to refuel the aircraft for the onward journey. The cash had to be in $20 bills only, and he specifically instructed that the serial numbers must not be from the same series, making it harder for authorities to trace. His instructions were exact, his manner calm, and his tone firm but polite. He warned that if anyone tried anything foolish, he would blow up the plane. The captain discreetly informed air traffic control, and soon the FBI was alerted. For hours, law enforcement officials scrambled to figure out their next steps. Why parachutes? Why such a specific demand for money? Some suspected he intended to take hostages. Others believed he planned an airborne escape. The FBI could not take chances, and the airline president ultimately made the decision: give the hijacker what he wants. The safety of the passengers came first. By early evening, the plane descended towards Seattle. Passengers, unaware of what was happening, were told there was a minor mechanical issue. At 5:46 p.m., the plane landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport under heavy police and FBI presence. A Northwest employee approached the aircraft carrying a large bag containing the ransom, a $10,020 bill set and 4 parachutes. Following Cooper's instructions, the delivery was made discreetly. The lights on the runway were dimmed, and the cabin lights lowered, preventing snipers or spotters from seeing inside. Once the ransom was on board, Cooper released all 36 passengers and 1 of the attendants, keeping only the 2 pilots, the flight engineer, and a flight attendant with him. True to his word, he made no attempt to harm those he let go. For them, it had been nothing more than a strange delay, and many only learned afterward that they had been part of an infamous hijacking. With the ransom secured, Cooper now issued new instructions. The plane was to fly south toward Mexico City at an altitude of 10,000 feet, with the landing gear down, flaps lowered, and airspeed kept around 150 knots, barely above stall speed for a jetliner. He also insisted the rear exit stairs remain operable, an unusual feature unique to the Boeing 727. The crew protested that such conditions would burn fuel quickly, So after negotiation, it was agreed that a refueling stop would be made in Reno, Nevada. Cooper listened carefully and then allowed them to proceed. At 7:40 p.m., the plane took off again into the stormy night sky. Heavy rain lashed the aircraft, winds gusted, and the terrain below was rugged and forested. For nearly 20 minutes, the flight was uneventful. Then, a warning light flickered in the cockpit, the indicator that the rear stairs had been deployed. The crew used the intercom to check if Cooper needed assistance. His last words came through the cabin, sharp and dismissive, "Number." Moments later, turbulence shook the plane as the crew felt a sudden shift in pressure. Somewhere over the thick wilderness of Washington state, the hijacker had opened the door, strapped the ransom to himself, and leapt into the darkness. The crew landed the plane safely in Reno, but when authorities stormed the cabin, they found no sign of Cooper. All that remained was his black tie, a mother-of-pearl tie clip, and one unused parachute. What followed was one of the most extensive manhunts in American history. FBI agents, state police, and local sheriffs scoured the forests near Lake Merwin, an area thought to be the probable landing site. Helicopters buzzed overhead, divers searched rivers, and dogs combed through dense woods. Volunteers joined the effort, but no trace of the hijacker was found. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Speculation swirled. Could he have survived such a reckless jump in bad weather, at night, wearing only a business suit and loafers? Some investigators argued it was nearly impossible. The parachute he used was an older, non-steerable model, and the conditions were brutal: a cold rain, strong winds, and pitch darkness. They believed he likely perished in the wilderness. Others, however, argued that Cooper was a skilled paratrooper who knew exactly what he was doing. His careful planning suggested he might have escaped unharmed. Months later, in 1972, a man named Richard Floyd attempted a nearly identical hijacking. He parachuted from a plane after extorting ransom money but was captured soon after. The FBI suspected at first that he might be Cooper, but flight attendants from the 1971 hijacking quickly dismissed the resemblance. Floyd, it seemed, was simply an imitator inspired by Cooper's daring crime. Years passed without resolution. The case took a dramatic turn in 1980 when a young boy vacationing with his family along the Columbia River uncovered a decayed bundle of $20 bills buried in the sand. The total was about $5,800, and the serial numbers matched those of the ransom. The discovery reignited debate. Had Cooper crashed into the river? Had the money washed downstream? Or had he deliberately buried part of the ransom to mislead investigators? Nobody was ever found, and no further money ever surfaced, deepening the mystery. Dozens of suspects were investigated. Some were convicted criminals with parachuting experience, others were eccentric loners who boasted of being Cooper to friends. Over the decades, people came forward claiming Cooper was their neighbor, their ex-husband, even their uncle. In 2011, a woman named Marla Cooper claimed that her uncle had been the hijacker and that she remembered overhearing conversations about a hijacking. A flight attendant even remarked that his photograph bore a resemblance to the man she saw. But no concrete evidence ever surfaced, and the FBI remained unconvinced. By 2016, after 45 years, the FBI announced it was suspending active investigation, reallocating resources to more pressing cases. They admitted that despite thousands of leads, hundreds of suspects, and decades of effort, the case remained unsolved. Still, they kept the file open to new information, should any ever arise. Meanwhile, D.B. Cooper became a cultural icon. Books, documentaries, and films speculated endlessly about his fate. He was portrayed as both a reckless criminal and a kind of folk hero, a man who outsmarted the system and disappeared with a fortune. Musicians wrote songs about him, novelists borrowed his name, and conspiracy theories flourished online. Each year, on the anniversary of the hijacking, enthusiasts gather near Ariel, Washington, where the first FBI command post had been set up, to celebrate what became known as Cooper Day. People don suits, ties, and sunglasses, and toast the man who slipped through history's grasp. The enduring allure of the mystery lies not only in the crime itself but in the unanswered questions. Did Cooper die in the jump, his body lost forever in the wilderness? Did he survive and live quietly under a new identity, spending the ransom slowly and carefully. Why was only a small portion of the money ever recovered? Was he a former soldier or a rogue skydiver with insider knowledge, or was he just an ordinary man who gambled everything on one desperate act of defiance? More than half a century later, those questions still have no answers. What is certain is that Cooper pulled off something no one else ever did. He hijacked a commercial airliner, extorted ransom money, parachuted into the night, and vanished, never to be caught, never to be confirmed dead or alive. To this day, D.B. Cooper remains the only hijacker in American history who got away. His legend lives on, suspended between the earth and the sky, just like the night he disappeared.